Hello and welcome to Football Daily. We have a real treat for you today, yet another 11. This time, it's manager's worst nightmare. Brace yourselves. Goalkeeper, Massimo Taibi. Peter Schmeichel is a difficult man to replace. An absolute mountain of a man, an incredible leader, and an agile shot stopper. It took Sir Alex Ferguson 6 years, but it is fair to say his first effort to compensate for the loss of the Great Dane was a woeful one. Massimo Taibi arrived at Old Trafford from Serie A side Venezia for €9 million, and the 6-foot-plus keeper actually started quite well. His debut was at Anfield, and he made a number of quality saves, including a one-on-one from Vladimir Smica, and the man from Palermo picked up the Man of the Match award. But it's fair to say that after that, Taibi's Manchester United career went off a cliff. He conceded 5 goals at Stamford Bridge before conceding a goal at Old Trafford from a Matt Le Tissier shot that led to the Sun dubbing him the Blind Venetian. Le Tissier's daisy cutter from 30 yards trickled through Taibi's legs and gasps went all around Old Trafford, Manchester and the world. That was it for Taibi. His Red Devils career was over after a measly 22 days. Right back, Serge Aurier. Spurs' new right-back Serge Aurier's stats from Ligue 1 last season compare favourably with the likes of Antonio Valencia, averaging more assists, interceptions and blocks per 90 minutes, but he is seen as something of a liability off the pitch. Aurier made 81 appearances for PSG after his debut in 2014, but he swapped Paris for North London after being displaced in the pecking order by Thomas Meunier and Dani Alves. Despite his excellent pedigree, the Ivory Coast international is a bit of a bad boy. In February 2017, he went on Periscope and bitched about PSG boss Unai Emery and his teammates, and then in May he elbowed a policeman in the throat outside a Paris nightclub and ended up in court. This resulted in a suspended prison sentence and delayed his transfer to Spurs. Although Serge is undoubtedly a great player, he did after all win 2 league titles and 2 French Cups while in Paris. It appears that he lacks a few brain cells. Can Pochettino trust him to behave himself at the club Christmas party? Here at Football Daily, we're pretty sceptical. Centre-back, Pascal Segal. Pascal Segal is widely considered Arsene Wenger's worst ever signing, and he's a manager that thought Park Chu-young and Andre Santos were Arsenal quality. The Frenchman is notorious for having a tricky time spotting centre-backs. The likes of Philippe Senderos, Johan Djourou, Igor Stepanos and Sebastian Squillaci have all been given a go with minimal success. Segal never looked comfortable receiving the ball, and added to the fact he looked like he was only ever one moment away from an error, gave the Highbury crowd an impending sense of doom whenever he went near the ball. Somehow he lasted 4 seasons at the Gunners before anyone realised just how woeful he was, picking up a winner's medal as part of the Invincible side and winning 2 FA Cups in the process. And the Arsenal faithful clearly didn't rate him, singing, "He's bald, he's shit, he plays when no one's fit." Centre-back, Titus Bramble. Titus Bramble managed to play 13 consecutive seasons in the Premier League between 2000 and 2013 for Ipswich, Newcastle United, Wigan Athletic and Sunderland before anyone really realised the depth of his ineptitude. The error-prone England youth defender was relegated 3 times in his career, only 2 short of the record. And at the end of the 2003-04 season, while at Newcastle, readers of Guardian football newsletter The Fiver voted him the worst player in the league. He was released by Sunderland at the end of 2013, aged 32, and not a single club went for him. Not even a Championship struggler, League One team, or even a relegation-threatened League Two side. Add into the mix that he was arrested on suspicion of rape with his brother Tesfaye in September 2010 and again in 2011 on allegations of sexual assault and possession of a Class A drug, the current Stowmarket Town player-coach is definitely a manager's nightmare. Left back, Djimi Traoré. Djimi Traoré has a pretty impressive CV which includes Liverpool, Monaco and Marseille, but it's his spell at Liverpool for which he is most remembered. He joined the Reds as a 19-year-old in 1999 and somehow managed to stay for 7 years. Positionally poor and offering next to nothing in attack, Traoré symbolised Liverpool's repeated forays into the foreign markets for defenders who simply weren't up to scratch. During his 7 uninspiring seasons, he almost left for Everton, which would have only strained an already uneasy relationship with the fans. And he scored an absolute howler of an own goal against Burnley in the 2005 FA Cup. Attempting a Rabona 4 yards out and of course managing to backheel it into his own net. One of the great mysteries of football is how Traoré managed to find himself in the starting lineup for the infamous 2005 Champions League final. In classic Traoré form, he managed to give away the free kick from which Maldini eventually scored. The best indication of his worthlessness is his lack of international caps. Traoré got a mere 7 for Mali, barely a nation blessed with footballing talent. It seems that they knew something a succession of Liverpool managers didn't. Midfielder, Abou Diaby. Football is a game of skill, talent, technique and athleticism, but it also has a fair element of luck. And it's fair to say that Abou Diaby had absolutely none of it whatsoever. A very talented central midfielder who has managed to win a credible 16 caps for France during his career, all before the age of 26, has had injuries galore during his career. A total of 40 across 9 years at Arsenal have limited Diaby to a paltry 124 Arsenal appearances during his time in North London. He averages just under 14 appearances and 4 injuries per season. The poor guy. When he finally left Arsenal in 2015, he was the club's joint longest-serving player alongside Thomas Rosicky, although Arsenal fans could be forgiven for wishing they had cut their losses sooner. And what has he done since? Made 5 appearances for Marseille in 2 years, low even by Diaby's standards. It seems harsh to include someone so clearly talented on this list, but his inability to get off the treatment table and onto the pitch must have given Arsene many sleepless nights. Midfielder Gerardo Bedoya. Gerardo Bedoya is commonly considered the world's dirtiest footballer. He retired in 2015 after making 552 career appearances, mainly in his native Colombia. There are no two ways about it though, Bedoya is an absolute nutter, sent off a world record 46 times for every offence under the sun. His 41st red card came in the Bogota derby between Independiente Santa Fe and Millonarios in September 2003 and was particularly memorable. Bedoya, who could play at centre-back or defensive midfield, was sent off for elbowing the opposition striker Johnny Ramirez. This started a mass brawl between Bedoya, who wasn't satisfied with just that, aiming a kick at Ramirez as he left the pitch, earning the Colombian a 15-game ban. Despite his reputation, Bedoya, who makes Joey Barton look cuddly in comparison, still managed to win 49 caps for Colombia. The notorious hothead made his first foray into coaching with Independiente Santa Fe in March 2017 and of course ended up being sent off after only 19 minutes. Midfielder Jack Wilshire. Combine the injuries of Abou Diaby and the discipline of Gerardo Bedoya and you end up with Jack Wilshire. Yes, he was a great prospect once and has had some good games for Arsenal and England, not least a virtuoso midfield display against Barcelona in the Champions League in 2011, well worth a watch if you have a moment. But now a succession of injuries have robbed the now 25-year-old of valuable game time, and his career has stalled as a result. Even though he's coming up to a decade of officially being on Arsenal's books, he has only made 105 appearances, numbers that even make Diaby look like a regular. Add into the mix that Wilshire is a player who loves a cheeky fag and the occasional pint, and you can see why even Arsene Wenger, known for his stubbornness and loyalty, is seemingly losing patience with Wilshire. Forward, Ali Dyer. Ali Dyer is a name that must have Graham Souness waking up in cold sweats. Dyer is without a doubt the single greatest football conman. In 1996, he managed to convince the then Southampton manager that he was the cousin of Ballon d'Or winner George Weah, had played for PSG and represented Senegal 13 times. Despite the fact that your cousin's sporting ability has literally no effect on your own prowess, Souness took the bait and signed Dyer to a 1-month contract. In fairness to Souness, what came next was horrendously unlucky. A reserve game against Arsenal that Dyer was due to trial in was called off due to a waterlogged pitch. So, on the 23rd of November 1996, a date no doubt etched in Souness's memory, Dyer came on in the 32nd minute for Matt Le Tissier in a game against Leeds. Dyer was so bad that Le Tissier later said it was like watching Bambi on ice. Dyer's release 2 weeks into his Southampton contract brought to an end the greatest sporting prank of all time. Forward, Bebe. You hear whispers of a promising emerging talent, your extensive scouting network keeps on raving about this prospect, and a quick look at YouTube shows that the boy has promise, and despite never having watched him play, you sign him anyway. This is the recurring nightmare that runs through Sir Alex Ferguson's mind whenever it wanders back to the summer of 2010 and the acquisition of Bebe. Ferguson may have been a great manager, a charismatic leader, a solid tactician and an inspiring orator, but even the most ardent Man United fan would have to say that occasionally he would buy an absolute dud, and Bebe was one such dud. His transfer from Vitória Guimarães for £7.4 million, or 6 times the price of Eric Cantona, came only a year after he had been playing in the homeless World Cup. And he was an unmitigated disaster, seriously lacking in quality, never even making a Premier League start, and only making 7 appearances before being sent on a variety of loans. United eventually got him off their books in 2014, a full 4 years later, to Benfica, where he was promptly sent on another 2 loan spells. Currently plying his trade in Spain with Eibar, he scored 3 goals in 20 La Liga appearances in 2016-17, remarkable by his terrible standards. Forward, Adam Johnson. Adam Johnson was signed by Martin O'Neill for his hometown club Sunderland for £10 million in August 2012, with the hope that the Macombourne midfielder could finally lift Sunderland out of the malaise that had been surrounding the club for years. O'Neill said at the time, he has terrific ability, great delivery, and I'm sure he is a player who will excite the fans. In fairness to Johnson, who won 12 England caps, he played well in a struggling Sunderland side, scoring 19 goals in 122 appearances for the Black Cats. However, in March 2015, it all unravelled for him, as he was arrested on suspicion of grooming a 15-year-old girl. Despite Johnson later being charged with 3 offences, Dick Advocat continued to play the tricky winger. His contract was eventually terminated in February 2016 after he was found guilty of sexual activity with a girl under the age of 16. Sunderland's once star player is now behind bars at HM Prison Moorland in South Yorkshire, and although a succession of Sunderland managers have been denied access to an undoubtedly talented player, Britain's streets are at least a little bit safer. So thanks once again for watching, guys, and if you enjoyed this, why not click on screen right now for another one of our fantastic videos, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe.